In 1945, Japan was in complete ruins. Two atomic bombs, firebombing campaigns across 67 cities, an economy that had been completely devastated, infrastructure gone, savings wiped out. The country had to rebuild from literally nothing. Now fast forward to 2026. According to the Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report, Japan is home to more than 3.6 million millionaires, the third highest concentration of millionaires in the entire world. Japanese households hold over 141 trillion yen in personal financial assets. That's roughly 14 trillion US dollars, according to the Bank of Japan's own flow of funds data, published in 2023. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The average Japanese worker earns between 35,000 and 40,000 US dollars per year, according to OECD employment data. That is lower than the average American salary, lower than Australia, lower than Germany, lower than the UK. So how does a country with modest wages, almost no natural resources, and a rapidly aging population quietly accumulate some of the deepest personal wealth on the planet? It is not a government secret. It is not a special investment formula. It is not luck. It is 8 deeply ingrained cultural money habits, some of them over 100 years old, that the vast majority of people in the Western world have never heard of. And I'm going to walk you through every single one of them today, with the research, the data, and the practical steps you can start using immediately. Let's go. Habit number 1. And this one is over 100 years old. It's called Kakeibo, pronounced Kakeibo, and it translates directly to household financial ledger. Now before you think, oh, a budget journal, boring, stay with me, because this is not what you think it is. Kakeibo was invented in 1904 by a woman named Hani Motoko, Japan's first female journalist. She created it as a practical system for Japanese households to manage money with intention and clarity. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The average Japanese worker earns between 35,000 and 40,000 US dollars per year, according to OECD employment data. That is lower than the average American salary, lower than Australia, lower than Germany, lower than the UK. So how does a country with modest wages, almost no natural resources, and a rapidly aging population cleared? And over 120 years later, millions of Japanese households still use it. Here is how it works. At the beginning of every single month, before you spend a single yen, you sit down with a physical journal, not an app, not a spreadsheet, and you answer 4 questions. How much money do I have available this month? Question 2. How much do I want to save this month? Question 3. How much am I actually spending? Question 4. How can I improve compared to last month? Question 2. How much do I want to save comes before question 3. How much am I spending? You decide the savings number first. Everything else is what's left. In the West, most people save what's left after spending. In Japan, they spend what's left after saving. That one reversal is enormous. Then throughout the month, every purchase gets recorded by hand and placed into one of 4 categories: needs, your rent, utilities, groceries, transportation. The non-negotiables: wants, dining out, entertainment, clothing, anything optional, culture, books, education, museum visits, personal development, and unexpected, the emergency car repair, the surprise medical bill, the things you didn't plan for. Now, why does writing this by hand matter? Isn't an app easier? And that's exactly the problem. Research published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that the physical act of handwriting creates a stronger emotional and psychological connection to information than typing does. When you physically write down that you spent $40 on takeout 3 times this week, it registers differently in your brain than watching a number update automatically in an app. You feel it. A survey conducted by Japan's Financial Services Agency found that households actively practicing Kakeibo reported saving an average of 35% more than their baseline before adopting the system. And this aligns perfectly with Nobel Prize-winning research by economist Richard Thaler on pre-commitment strategies. The idea that when you decide in advance what you're going to do with your money, you are dramatically more likely to follow through than if you make decisions in the moment. Kakeibo is pre-commitment made into a daily ritual. The practical takeaway here is simple. This week, get a notebook, any notebook, and write down those 4 questions for this month. Before you open your banking app, before you check your balance, decide what you want to save first. And this one has a financial connection that almost nobody talks about. You've probably heard of Ikigai. It went massively viral in the Western world over the last decade. It means reason for being. And it sits at the intersection of 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for.
Most content about Ikigai focuses on career fulfillment and happiness. And that's fine. But the financial implication of Ikigai is something that almost nobody is discussing. And it is profound. When their job aligns with their Ikigai, they engage in dramatically less compensatory spending. Let me explain what compensatory spending is. Compensatory spending is what happens when you buy things to feel better about a life that doesn't feel meaningful. You hate your job, so you buy an expensive watch to feel successful. You feel unfulfilled Monday through Friday, so you spend Saturday shopping to feel something. You feel stuck, so you book an impulse vacation you can't afford because you need a break from a life you didn't consciously choose. Sound familiar? Research by Professor Barry Schwartz at Swarthmore College and studies highlighted in the Harvard Business Review consistently show that people with high levels of work, meaning spend significantly less on status goods, luxury items, and what researchers call experiential escapism. Basically, spending money to escape your regular life. Quote, "In Japan, this manifests in a very measurable way. Japan has one of the highest rates of older workers remaining productively employed past traditional retirement age in the developed world, according to Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. Approximately 25% of Japanese workers over the age of 65 remain in paid employment, compared to around 19% in the United States. And here's the financial math on that. If you invest $500 per month from age 25 to 65, assuming a 7% annual return, you end up with approximately $1.3 million. If you work with purpose and stay engaged until 17, just 5 more years, that same contribution pattern grows to approximately $1.9 million. From 5 extra years of purposeful work, no extra investing, no higher returns, just Ikigai. The practical takeaway, Ikigai is not just a happiness concept. It is a wealth-building concept. The clearer you are on your purpose, the less you spend compensating for a life you don't want, and the longer you'll want to stay productive. Both of those factors are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Habit number 3. And this one might be my favorite because the data behind it is genuinely shocking. The concept is called Mottainai, and it has no direct English translation, which tells you something important. It represents a feeling of deep regret over waste, not just environmental regret, personal regret, moral regret. Mottainai is built on 4 principles: reduce, reuse, recycle, and respect. That 4th one, respect, is the Japanese edition. It's the idea that every object, every resource, every unit of money has inherent value that deserves to be honored. This concept is so globally recognized that Nobel Peace Prize laureate Wangari Maathai adopted Mottainai as a global environmental campaign slogan in 2005. But let's talk about the financial numbers, because they are staggering. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, the average American household throws away approximately $1,500 worth of food every single year. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey shows that the average American spends approximately $18,000 per year on non-essential items. According to data from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, Japanese food waste per capita is less than half that of Americans. Half. And it's not just food. Japan has a deeply embedded repair culture. When something breaks, an appliance, a piece of clothing, a piece of furniture, the default response in Japan is to repair it, not replace it. Japan has over 30,000 dedicated repair shops, according to the Japan Electronics and Information Technology Industries Association. There's even a Japanese art form called kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold, which treats the repair itself as beautiful. The broken and repaired object is considered more valuable, not less. That philosophy runs through Japanese financial culture entirely. Now let's put a real number on what Mottainai is worth. If you reduced food waste to the Japanese average, eliminated half your non-essential spending, and committed to repairing rather than replacing items for an average of 10 years, and invested that difference at a conservative 7% annual return, you would accumulate between $180,000 and $250,000 in additional wealth over that decade. From waste reduction alone. The practical takeaway. Before you throw anything away this week, food, clothing, electronics, ask one question. Is there value here I'm about to disrespect? That one moment of Mottainai thinking is worth thousands of dollars per year. Habit number 4. And this one is about something you already know, but probably don't do the way Japan does it. Chokin simply means savings. But the cultural weight behind that word in Japan is completely different from how Western cultures relate to saving money. In the West, and I say this with respect but also with honesty, saving is often treated as a chore. It's what responsible adults are supposed to do. It's the financial vegetable you eat because you know you should. In Japan, saving is a moral virtue. It is a reflection of your character. It is part of your identity. And the numbers reflect that cultural difference completely. According to OECD data, Japan's household savings rate peaked at approximately 40% in the 1970s and 1980s. Even today, after decades of economic stagnation and deflationary pressure, Japan maintains a savings rate of between 11 and 17%. The United States savings rate over the same recent period? Between 3 and 5%. The UK around 6 to 8%. Japan is consistently near the top of developed nations for household saving. But here's what makes Japan's saving culture structurally unique. And this is something most people don't know. Japan Post Bank, the savings arm of the Japanese Postal Service, was established in 1875. 1875, for 150 years, every Japanese citizen, including people in the most rural, remote parts of the country, has had access to a simple, trusted savings account through their local post office. Japan Post Bank currently holds assets exceeding $2 trillion according to their most recent annual report. That is one of the largest accumulations of individual savings deposits in the world, built on small, consistent contributions from ordinary citizens. This democratized saving across every income level. It made saving the default behavior, not the exception. A Bank of Japan consumer survey found that over 70% of Japanese households maintain dedicated savings accounts that are separate from their everyday spending accounts. Separate accounts. That's the structural key. When your savings are in the same account as your spending, your brain perceives all of it as available. When your savings are in a completely separate account, ideally one that requires effort to access, your brain treats that money as already gone. This is called the pain of pain in behavioral economics, and research from the University of Michigan and Carnegie Mellon confirms that physical and structural separation of savings from spending funds significantly increases how much people save. The practical takeaway: open a completely separate high-yield savings account today, not tomorrow, today. Set up an automatic transfer for the day after your paycheck arrives. Name that account something meaningful: Freedom Fund, Future Self. Whatever makes it real to you, then forget it exists until you need it. And this one is the most underrated financial strategy in this entire video. Japan has 2 formal gift-giving seasons every single year: Ochugan, which happens in July, and Oseibo, which happens in December. During these seasons, Japanese people give carefully selected gifts to the people who have supported them throughout the year: bosses, mentors, clients, teachers, family members who have helped them. Most Westerners hear this and think, oh, that's a nice cultural tradition. Sweet. That is completely missing the point. What Japan has done is institutionalize relationship capital investment. They have built the systematic maintenance of high-value human relationships directly into the cultural calendar. Twice per year, non-negotiably. And the financial return on relationship capital is not small. It is enormous. Research by Professor Nicholas Christakis at Yale University on social network dynamics shows that the strength of your professional relationships is one of the most significant predictors of long-term earning potential, with strong networks associated with income premiums of up to 50% over a career. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people who systematically maintain professional relationships receive more job referrals, more business opportunities, and more mentorship than those who don't. Harvard Business Review research confirms that senior professionals with strong intentional networks earn significantly more and advance faster than those with weak or accidental networks. Japan's senpai-kohai system, the formal mentorship structure between senior and junior colleagues, reinforced by gift-giving rituals, creates career networks that consistently generate better opportunities, better income, and better financial outcomes over a lifetime. Your network is your net worth is not a motivational quote. It is a documented financial reality. Japan just built it into the culture. The practical takeaway: you don't need to start giving gifts twice a year, though it's not a bad idea. What you need to do is schedule intentional relationship maintenance into your calendar. Reach out to a mentor. Thank someone who helped you. Nurture the professional relationships that are quietly building your long-term earning potential. This is an investment with compounding returns. Habit number 6, and this one directly explains why Japanese investors quietly outperform most Western investors over time. Gambaru means to persist, to do your absolute best, to keep going when it's hard. It's one of the most commonly used words in the Japanese language and one of the most deeply embedded values in Japanese culture. Applied to money, Gambaru represents something very specific: the commitment to long-term, boring, consistent financial behavior over exciting, short-term financial moves. And the data on this could not be more clear. Every year, a research firm called Dalbar publishes what they call the quantitative analysis of investor behavior. Their 2023 report found that over the previous 30 years, the S&P 500 returned an average of 10.65% per year. The average equity investor, real people managing real money, earned 6.81% per year over that same period. Every single year for 30 years. That gap was not caused by bad stock picks. It was not caused by high fees. It was caused by emotional behavior, panic selling during downturns, chasing performance, moving in and out of the market based on fear and excitement. That behavior gap costs the average investor between $200,000 and $400,000 over a 30-year investment career. Gambaru is the antidote. It is the cultural commitment to staying the course, to not panicking in March 2020 when markets dropped 34% in 33 days, to not selling in 2008, to not chasing crypto in 2021 and panic selling in 2022. And here's the proof that Gambaru works at a national level. Japan has more companies that are over 100 years old than any other country in the world. Over 33,000 of them, according to research cross-referenced between Nikkei data and the Bank of Korea's Global Business Longevity Study. These are businesses that survived World War II, multiple recessions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and a 30-year deflationary economic environment. They survived because of Gambaru, because of the cultural commitment to persistence over shortcuts. The practical takeaway: automate your investments. Set them. Do not look at them every day. Do not react to headlines. The single most powerful financial decision you can make is to decide in advance that you will not panic, and then build systems that make it structurally difficult to act on that panic. Habit number 7. And this one is rooted in Japanese art, architecture, and philosophy, but its financial application is backed by some of the most important research in behavioral economics. Pronounced ma, it means negative space, the intentional pause, the gap between notes in music, the empty space in a room, the silence between words. In Japanese aesthetics, ma is not emptiness, it is presence. It is the deliberate moment of stillness that gives everything around it meaning. Ma is the pause before every financial decision. And that pause is worth an enormous amount of money. Here's the science. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman's research, the basis of his book Thinking Fast and Slow, identifies 2 modes of thinking. System 1, fast, emotional, automatic. System 2, slow, deliberate, rational. Almost every financial mistake that normal people make happens in System 1. You see a sale and you buy something you didn't need. You see the market crashing and you panic sell. You see a shiny new car and you rationalize a payment you can't afford. You get a bonus and you upgrade your lifestyle before you've thought about what you actually want. System 2, the slow, rational brain, almost always makes better financial decisions. Ma is the practice of forcing your brain from System 1 to System 2 before spending money.
A study published in the Journal of Marketing Research found that implementing a mandatory waiting period before non-essential purchases reduces impulse buying by between 30 and 40%. Japan's relationship with cash reinforces Ma culturally and structurally. According to Bank of Japan payment survey data, Japan remains one of the most cash-reliant developed economies in the world, with cash accounting for a significant majority of transactions, particularly in rural and suburban areas. And here's what that means financially. Research from MIT Sloan Management Review and studies at Carnegie Mellon University found that people consistently spend between 12 and 18% more when using credit cards compared to cash, because handing over physical bills creates a psychological pain of paying that digital transactions eliminate. Every time a Japanese consumer counts out physical yen notes, they are involuntarily practicing ma. The transaction takes longer. It feels more real. It creates a moment of genuine financial awareness that a tap of a credit card never does. The practical takeaway: institute 3 rules starting today. For any non-essential purchase over $50, wait 24 hours before buying. For any non-essential purchase over $200, wait 72 hours. For any major purchase over $500, wait 30 days.
And wherever possible, use cash for discretionary spending. Feel it leave your hands. That feeling is ma. And that feeling is worth tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Habit number 8, and this is the one that ties everything together. The concept is called So-Fujo, which translates to mutual aid. It is Japan's deeply embedded cultural practice of communities and families providing genuine financial and practical support to each other. This is not charity. This is not government welfare. This is a cultural expectation built over centuries that the people around you will help carry your weight when you need it, and you will carry theirs. And the financial implications of this cultural expectation are enormous and almost completely overlooked in personal finance content. Let me explain the mechanism. Research by Professor Anna Maria Lusardi at George Washington University, one of the world's leading financial literacy researchers, found a direct, documented correlation between financial anxiety and poor financial decision-making. When people feel financially unsafe, when they believe that one bad event could destroy them, they make systematically worse financial decisions. They avoid investing because it feels too risky. They panic sell during downturns. They overspend on comfort and status items to manage anxiety. They choose short-term financial safety over long-term wealth building. Financial fear is one of the most expensive emotions a person can experience. Japan's mutual aid culture directly reduces that fear, and the structural evidence is measurable. According to Japan's Statistics Bureau, approximately 20 to 25% of Japanese households are multi-generational, meaning grandparents, parents, and children living under one roof or in very close proximity. Let's put a financial number on that. If a multi-generational household eliminates one housing payment, say a $1,500 per month rent or mortgage, that is $18,000 per year in savings. Over 20 years, invested at 7% annual returns, that is approximately $900,000 in additional wealth, almost $1 million, from one family choosing to live in community rather than in expensive isolation. Japan also has one of the lowest rates of social isolation in the developed world. Research by Harvard professor Robert Putnam, whose landmark work on social capital, Bowling Alone, tracked the collapse of community in Western societies, shows that high-trust, high-community societies accumulate individual wealth faster, experience lower rates of financial fraud, and make better collective economic decisions than low-trust, isolated societies. So-Fujo removes the financial fear that makes people make terrible money decisions, and it removes it not through wealth, but through genuine human community. The practical takeaway: you probably cannot recreate Japan's cultural safety net overnight, but you can build your own version. A robust emergency fund, 6 to 12 months of expenses, is your personal So-Fujo. A trusted community of financially like-minded people is your personal mutual aid network. Open, honest money conversations with your family about goals, about support, about shared resources is your starting point. Financial safety is not just about how much money you have. It's about how supported you feel. And building that support, in whatever form is available to you, will make every other financial decision you make significantly better. Let me bring this all together. Japan was bombed into rubble in 1945. It had nothing. And within 2 generations, it became one of the wealthiest nations in the history of human civilization. Not because of oil, not because of land, not because of a booming stock market or a lucky economy, because of culture, because of habits, because of a relationship with money that is fundamentally different from what most of us were taught. Kakeibo. Write your budget by hand and decide your savings before you spend a single dollar. Ikigai. Find work that means something to you, so you stop spending money to escape a life you didn't choose. Mottainai. Waste nothing. Not food, not objects, not time, not money. Every dollar you don't waste is a dollar that compounds. Chokin. Save first, always, automatically, in a separate account before the spending starts. Relationship capital. Invest in the people around you. Your network is one of the highest returning assets you will ever build. Gambaru. Be patient. Be consistent. Stay in the market. The behavior gap between disciplined and emotional investors is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Pause. Before every significant purchase, create space between the impulse and the decision. That pause is worth more than you think. And So-Fujo. Build genuine community and safety, because financial fear is expensive, and feeling truly supported is one of the most powerful wealth-building conditions that exists. None of these require a high income. None of these require perfect timing in the market. None of these require luck. They require a decision, today, to relate to money differently than you did yesterday. Pick one habit from this list, just one, and start it this week. If this video gave you one thing worth keeping, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.